on trusting you when you've been cheating and spending your nights on town? And who keeps on saying that he still wants you when you're through running around? And who keeps on loving you when you've been lying, saying things ain't what they seem? Well, God does, but I don't. God will, but I won't. And that's the difference between God and me. Well, God does, but I don't. God will, but I won't. And that's the difference between God and me. So who says he'll forgive you and says that he'll miss you and dream of your sweet memory? Well, God does, but I don't. God will, but I won't. And that's the difference between God and me. Well, God does, but I don't. God will, but I won't. And that's the difference between God.
Dica, una bella soffiata di naso. Sto a fare la ripresa,
A dove?
Si faccia conoscere lei, chi è? Si tolga quel cappello. Ah, è l'Antonio il mascalzone. Pronti per la partenza da Prato di Mezzo, ore 6, raga, ore 6:20.
I was a very young man. I was a cowboy, the best in the land. But then she settled me down with a touch of her hand. Now I'm begging you, mister, tell me if you can, which way does that old pony run? Which way does that old pony run? And how much is that saddle and a straight shooting gun? Which way does that old pony run? Well, now a young girl, she don't know when she's alive. But a woman, a great God, she knows how it's done. So mama, before I go, there's just one thing on my mind. Which way does that old pony run? Which way does that old pony run? Which way does that old pony run? And how much is that saddle and a straight shooting gun? Which way does that old pony run? So this good life, you know I must leave. Well, your new car and your color TV, but what's the riches to you just ain't riches to me. If you're staying out here, then I'm headed back east. Which way does that old pony run? And which way does that old pony run? And how much is that saddle and a straight the shooting on? Which way does that old pony run? And how much is that saddle and a straight a shooting gun? And which way does that old pony run? Sat around in a circle. They were laughing and all telling lies. Then the tall one, he bumped in $1. He said, boys, I got nothing to hide. Now if the king and the queen stood together, then the ace, he would not be to blame. And if the cards were all laid on the table, then love could be more than a game. And if the stars didn't shine on the water, then the sun, it wouldn't burn on the sand. And if I were the man she wanted, I would not be the man that I am. And I have seen my share of long nights, and I have told my share of lies, and I have run into the darkness when I saw the look in your eyes. But if the night, it didn't lie in the darkness, then the daylight would be hard to find. And if the truth didn't turn to